We're back, people, and today we got another video going over, I think, improving the run blocking slash offensive line will change the entire dynamic of the offense. I've been preaching this for a while since, comparing the 2023 to 2024 season. And I wanted to bring this up because McDaniel in an interview not too long ago during minicamp, they asked him about creating explosive plays. And this is something that I've been, talking about. It all starts up front with the running game. Having a successful running game. So, leave a like and comment on the video. It helps it out tremendously. I always got to remember to say that. But yeah, I think it just creates like a trickle down effect. And I think McDaniel did a good job explaining this. And this is something that I, really wanted to go into because you able to run the ball, it helps transform everything. Not just having a better yards per carry, which, we'll see. I'll go over some averages and comparisons to things that happen. But, it opens up everything else to play action, passing game, explosive plays down the field. It makes defenses have to prepare against you differently, giving more opportunities down the field to players like Tyreek and Waddle. You saw the difference with them when, we go over these 2023. Like looking at you can just look at Achan's stats alone. Achan went from, an average of 7.8 yards per carry in 2023 to 4.5 in 2024. Now he did get more carries, which, could, lower his rate, but that is a huge rate to fall off of. Even in 2024, once like Austin Jackson went down with injury, like you had like four games in a row we had over 100 rushing yards. And then after Jackson went down with injury, you had a huge fall off. That's why like this season, this offense is obviously relying on Tua to stay healthy. That's key. But I would say your offensive lineman is staying relatively healthy. Like I think you need at least 4 of your 5 starters out there to have like pretty good success. The running game is where it all starts up front. Like the team went from 5.1 overall to 4.0, and you could see how much that affected everything. Literally, the entire team was affected. Your entire passing game, you were forced to run screens way more than you actually wanted to. You obviously couldn't run the ball as effectively, and it just explosive plays go away. You get less big runs from Achan. You getting less touchdowns. Like in most, had like 20 touchdowns in 2023. It takes away opportunities from your big play receivers. It takes your depth of target for Tua drops dramatically. That's, a big takeaway from that. So, cover 2, Dolphins face cover 2 more than any team in the league. And the fact that they were facing cover 2 at such a high rate and weren't able to run the ball in 2024 was, I think, the biggest downfall of the team outside of, your quarterback missing games. Like the fact that you couldn't run the ball versus 2 high looks absolutely awful, but adding these key players up front, I think changes. Like just getting Austin Jackson back, great. You lose Armstead, but I think having Patrick Paul out there, if he can take a growth, the running game, I think, can stay relatively similar from that thing. Armstead has the great pass pro stuff. But I think pass pro even becomes easier for these guys because you can do the jump sets. The play action slows down these guys. So that super helps. You have Brewer back, who was probably one of your most consistent guys all year long as a run blocker, especially when it comes to reach blocking. And the guards are the ones who can really make a difference, even though there still are question marks there. James Daniel coming off the Achilles injury. Jonah is a rookie. These guys should still be improvements over what you had last year. And you just need to fight inconsistency. I think one of the most important things when it comes to offensive line play is having these guys actually play together, build a chemistry up front. And I think they can. Another big part is not even just focusing on the O-line. It's other people. It's the fullback, Al Gingold. It's the tight ends. I think having Pharaoh Brown should help some consistency. That's why I've really wanted to add like a tight end that can do everything. And I think you should see, if you see better O-line play, I think that should trickle down also to the tight ends and fullbacks playing better consistently. The fullback and tight end are way more of an important key than I think people realize to the success of the offense and that stuff. And that all works out. You get at least, and you don't even need to have like the number 1 rushing attack. Because in 2023, you even look at 2023 where we talk about like the great season offensively, you look at it statistically overall, it was still great. But you saw the fall off towards the end of the season when players like Connor Williams went down. Robert Hunt was missing time. Austin Jackson was missing time. Once those like multiple players were missing time, and then Armstead obviously missing time, you were the games when they had 3 or less of their starters, or like 2 or less of the starters. Those games were way worse when they had like 4 or 5 starters. The only game that they had all 5 starters play, for that like the original 5 that they were gonna have, was the Denver game when they put up 70. So that's why it's so important. It creates all the explosive opportunities that you get in the passing game too. Not even just from having better pass blocking. It's literally all starts up front from the run blocking perspective. That's why health can be so key. Yeah, and you saw the big fall off in 2024 because you're missing game with your quarterback. But even when Tua returned, there were some good rushing games for a couple games, and then Jackson went down, and you lost it completely. They literally stopped even trying to run the ball because it was just negative gain after negative gain. And then maybe once a game, Achane would have like a 30-yard run, but the rest of his games would be like 3 yards or less. And it was just screen to be a part of your running game, and that limited the offense greatly. Teams, you can just look at how teams played you. Like, I'm gonna have a video where I look at some of these differences where I like break it down film wise. But man, just looking at all levels of the defense, teams are spread out on the defensive front. The linebackers are playing at higher depth, which allows them, one, to get to the outside running game easier, but also gain depth, spot drop when you're trying to hit those 15 to 20 yard throws over between the second and third level defenders. This third level defenders can gain even more depth to not allow you to take any vertical shots because of how much depth the second level can gain. And then everything's built on timing. It allows the timing to be better. Play action pass, like the Dolphins thrive when they can use their RPOs and play action stuff and manipulate defenders. And when you're able to sell the RPO and the play action and have these linebackers bite downhill at least a little bit, they don't have to bite downhill. They just have to freeze for just a split second. That's when Tua is at his best and he can take advantage. And you have Tyreek and Waddle, and even though it's a quick passing game, they can get down the field so quickly off these play action looks, and having the play action freezes you the D line as well. So it doesn't allow them to get after Tua as quickly. If you're able to just make that linebacker freeze for a split second to at least have the running game challenge them, then you take advantage down the field. Boom, boom, throws. And even if they don't start flying downhill on those play action looks, that should mean when you actually do run the ball, that there should be a little more space to work with. You block things up front. And like, look at it last year. I think the Dolphins had like the least amount of plays, like 20 plus yards explosive plays last year. And, the year prior they had the most. So like going from the most to the worst, huge difference. And I think it all starts up front. And even just having big explosive run plays, like you're going to see some of these plays where like Achane gets a hole. Yes, and there's times where the running backs left plays on the field. It wasn't just the offensive line at times. Like sometimes the running backs made a bad read because, things were not perfectly blocked, but they were still blocked well enough that you could have made a play. Some of those things were like blocked so well. They were schemed up well. It also makes life easier for McDaniel, makes life easier for Tua. That, makes life easier on these running backs, Achane and Wright, who are big explosive players. Sometimes they left plays on the field because they were getting hit in the backfield. They can create, and we'll have those times where they do create. But just giving them just enough of a crease, they have that explosive ability to take big time advantage of it. So I think it's the biggest part for this offense in this upcoming season. And I think that's why I do feel pretty good. I have a lot of concerns about the O-line behind. So I think you can survive with like one injury at like a spot. Like, so if you have 4 of your starters and then say, whoever it is comes in, depending on which player is injured, I think there's a chance for that. I think, Armstead was, I think Patrick Paul has a much higher likelihood of staying healthy, which I think is the positive having Paul this year, is you can create at least more chemistry and consistency. You don't have to be someone just rotating in and out. I think your biggest concern health-wise is probably Jackson and Daniels. So Daniels coming off the Achilles, but at least he didn't have a big injury history, at least before that. Like he had played for the most part. Jackson's the one who's had like consistent injuries, so you kind of have to be able to replace him. Maybe they bump Jonah out too. That could be a possibility. But I think if they can keep, all 5 healthy, or like 4 of the 5, play a majority of the snaps, I think the running game will have a pretty successful season. And I think that will open up some big things, and being a little more diverse running the ball will also be helpful. And I think last year you saw like when the Dolphins were able to run or in 2023 when they ran the ball, they were actually good for most teams, but against the biggest teams, they had those injuries on the O-line and they couldn't run the ball successfully. So I think that could also be the deciding factor in them playing better against good teams, because when they actually have played, like, it's a thing that the Dolphins kind of struggle versus good teams, but against good defenses, they've actually found success when they were able to at least run the ball at a somewhat semi-successful rate. So I think that's kind of the key going into the season. It helps pretty much open up everything from the playbook to, I think it maxes to a skill set. Maxes, I think, pretty much the whole passing game. Waddle, Tyreek, should be able to take advantage of that. And it also will, I think Jonnu, who wouldn't get as much, if you are able to run the most more successfully, he won't get as many touches, but he should see a lot more work. Like he'll see a lot more space underneath. So like when he does get those touches, he should be able to maximize Yak, which should help him out. Same with HN underneath if he's getting receiving targets. So if you guys know what they're doing, much like, comment, and subscribe.